Recording light. That means it's going. Go us. Oh, should I do an intro? Like, thanks for. Yeah, why not?
Introducing
Yeah, yeah.
Lauren.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys for joining this midweek devotional for Highfields Church of Christ, and I'm sure other people will watch it. I got Lauren joining us, who's in quarantine at the moment. So, first question I want to ask is, how is quarantine going?
It's been good so far. I am quarantined at the Marriott in Brisbane, so I'm feel very fortunate that I got such a nice hotel because I know that other people have not had that luck. So I have a great hotel room. I'm overlooking the Brisbane River and the Story Bridge, so I feel like I'm getting a little taste of Australia, which is nice. It's day 4, so I'll be here for 14 days. And so I haven't been too bored just yet. I've got a puzzle going. I have been reading a lot. I've been watching Netflix and video chatting with people, and yeah, it's been not too bad so far. I think it's nice to be back in Australia, so I am enjoying that novelty right now.
You can always watch Tiger King on Netflix. I've
I've
heard
already
that's
watched it, Matt.
what. Oh, you can
That's old
rewatch it.
news. That was at the beginning of
Oh,
coronavirus.
you know what? Fine. I'm sorry. I haven't. It's not as crazy here as it's been in the States for you. Well, I guess, can you get fresh air? You said you got a window. Can you like put your head out, or how does it work? Are you just like stuck in a hotel room?
Yeah. So I wasn't sure how it was going to work. And the kind of person that I am, I'm like the type of person that wants to prepare myself for things that are unknown. And literally, I had no idea what hotel I was going to be at, what it was going to be like, um, until I arrived at Brisbane Airport. So I flew from LA through Auckland and then Auckland to Brisbane. And everyone on the plane had no idea where they were going to be quarantined. We got to the airport, we were told it was the Marriott. Um, and so I really didn't know what to expect. I got here, there was no balcony. You can't even like crack open a window. But then I was told that you can actually request a police escort. It's crazy. If you come to the Marriott in Brisbane, you literally can't get through the front doors because the Australian Defence Force are guarding the front of the hotel with their masks. And so if you want to deliver something, you have to give it to the Defence Force people and they bring it in, and then the police officers deliver it to your door. And I feel so bad because I'm like, what a demotion for the police officers. They're now delivering people's Uber Eats to their hotel room. So yeah, it's really hard to get anywhere. And if I was to leave my hotel room, I wouldn't be able to get back in because my key card doesn't work anymore. So the only way I can leave is with an escort. So you have to call the front desk and say, I'd like some fresh air. And they put you on a list, and it takes a couple of hours, and then the policeman knocks on your door, and they take you down to the pool area, and there's probably like 10 or 15 other people there at a time. And you get an hour of being outside. It's not outside of the hotel, it's still in the hotel, but it's at least outside.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. It's so funny because all they do is just walk around in circles. That's all people do because that's all you can do. And honestly, I was there yesterday and I was thinking, how is this my life? Like, this feel is so weird. So anyway, I'm fortunate. I'm lucky that we actually get fresh air. The policemen and the Australian Defence Force are doing an amazing job. They are so kind. And I know that they're so busy and it's such a crazy situation. So yeah, it's been good. I've been getting good food. I get food delivered to my door every day. People have been delivering me like care packages and stuff like that, which has been really nice. And I get my morning coffee delivered, and yeah, so it's weird, but it's okay.
So yeah, well, it sounds like you're winning. And I know what I've seen Lauren quarantine planning chart that's been done up by your family. I think I've added in some things on that. So it seems like you're really busy. Everyone's putting in time to do something with you, which is awesome.
People make appointments with me. My brother, he did this Google document, and so people can make an appointment to like do a fun activity with me. So last night, my friends and I watched Farmer Wants a Wife. Tonight, I think I'm playing a Netflix party, or maybe no, I think I'm playing cards with a friend. I'll be watching some Bachelor this week with some friends, and yeah, it's you got to do what you got to do.
Hey, I saw the card game. It was Go Fish, and I was like, that's going to be
Yes,
interesting
that's
on
right.
the
That's
video
the one.
chat.
That's the
So,
one.
no, no, that's awesome. Well, another question. Have you been COVID tested yet? Have you had to do that experience?
I haven't yet. So the rules are in Queensland that you don't get tested until day 9 through day 12. So one of those days, and as long as you're negative on your test, you can leave on the 14th day. But if you're positive on the test, then you then have to go through the process of, okay, when am I allowed to leave? Because you have to stay until you're not contagious anymore. Um, so I haven't been tested yet, but I was having some like minor symptoms yesterday, which is kind of you never really know, like, is it from the
Hmm.
20 hours of flying that I did, or whatever. So I had to let the front desk know, and I think I'm getting a COVID test today. So I'm awaiting. I'm waiting that I literally don't know when they'll just knock on my door and stick
So they
something.
could come in now. If they come in now, could we see it live? Could we
Oh,
see?
100%.
Yes. Yes. I want a video, even if no one's around. You got to record it somehow. Because what? I want to see how long, because it's like a little like Q-tip they stick in your nose, right?
Yeah, I've heard it's not painful, but it's not comfortable. But
Oh, you'll have to let us know.
I
I'm
haven't gotten
excited.
a test yet, so yeah, it'll be good to know
Hmm.
that I'm clear, because I think I am. I feel otherwise very healthy. I just have some like very minor like symptoms. So
Were you ever tested back in the States, in America? Did you ever have to get tested there?
no, I was
Something
never
different.
tested in the States. Thankfully, I was never in close contact with anyone who had the virus. So, and I never really had any symptoms. So it was obviously very difficult to get testing over there, and was a big rigmarole. So unless you've been in contact with someone who's had it, or you have symptoms, you
Yeah.
don't get tested. So no, I never got the test, but I had friends who got tested, and they said it was an experience. They said there was like literally baseball stadiums that they devoted to coronavirus testing, and you would just drive through and you stop, and then the person would come and stick something up your nose, and you'd just be on your way. It's a very strange world.
Oh no, it is. And then I've heard the lineups too in the States, and it's like
Hours.
people waiting 4 or 5 hours for a COVID test and just stuck in the car.
Yep. It's crazy. It's
And
crazy.
it's hot over there now, so I
Yes.
couldn't imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Australia, as much as there has been the spike, and that's been scary for Victoria, I think Australia is doing much better, and their response has been much better than the States. That's all I'll say on that one.
Hey, yeah. No, we'll move on. Well, another question I have for you is how does it feel any different being back in Australia? Because I know for me, and you haven't really been outside much, but usually when I go back home and I get to America, I can look up in the sky and it just looks different. Like you feel different as soon as you get off. Have you had any of that with being back in Australia, or has it been different just because you're trapped in a room?
I kind of feel like I'm in limbo right now, because I haven't been exposed to the Australia that I really know. So it's been 2 years since I've lived here, and I've been back twice since then, but they were kind of whirlwinds. Like, I was catching up with people and had weddings and stuff like that. So to be back and to have all this time on my hands, and like, I'm putting on the news and watching like Australian TV shows again, and I'm like, wow, it's so weird to be back. Um, and then to be able to look out to Brisbane and see civilization, but then not be out there, has been kind of interesting. Um, So yeah, I think in some ways it definitely feels different. There's an element of comfort that I have, and like comfortability. I feel like there's things that are familiar to me here, that it feels nice to be back. But in other ways, I feel like America became so much my home for 2 years that I do feel like I have a bit of reverse culture shock of coming back and realizing that, you know, things are different here and we use different services, and even just simple things like my accent is not the minority anymore. You know, like everyone has my accent. Um, and I'm not a foreigner anymore. Like I have rights that I didn't have in America and all of that. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think that this being like stuck in a hotel to get myself back into Australian life is probably not ideal, but it's it is nice to be back. It's nice to hear Aussie accents again.
I can understand. It's always nice when you hear people that sound like you.
Yeah, you know what I mean, Matt.
I do. I get made fun of when I go back home though, because they say I don't sound American, and then I come here and I don't sound Australian. So no one wants my accent
I
anymore. I'm just.
know.
I've heard your mom told me that she drove past your window or something after dropping you off a care package and waved. So was that nice to at least see your mom like what? I guess a couple stories away in your
Yeah,
hotel room?
stories. Yeah, it was nice. I was able to kind of like peek out the window and see mum from afar, and I zoomed in on my phone so that I could see her face. So that was good. I know that not everyone is able to have that kind of a view. Like
Yeah.
it was pretty amazing that I was able to see that. So yeah, that was cool. If anyone else is in Brisbane and wants to come say good day, I'm at the Marriott Hotel.
Just come by, give you a call.
Yeah, drop off a coffee. I'll
Yeah.
never say no to coffee.
Never, yeah, coffee's good.
Coffee
Now,
is
I know your mom was excited when you got a window room because that was a debate, a question for a little while because no one really knew when you came, like you
yeah.
said. Like, you don't even know.
No, you have no idea. Yes, it's been a big blessing.
No, that's awesome. Well, I got one last question for you. Um, at Highfields, we have a new vision and values that we're going through. And our new vision statement is a welcoming place to know and experience God's love. I was just wondering, would you have any thoughts or advice, thoughts on that kind of vision statement, and maybe advice for us as a church moving forward in that kind of vision statement, post COVID, or
Mm.
well, it's not even post COVID, still during COVID.
Post
I don't know what you call it, huh?
post lockdown, maybe.
Post lockdown, go that one because COVID's all post lockdown for now. Hopefully, no more spikes or anything. But yeah, take it away. I'll hand it over to you. Any thoughts, advice, anything?
Yeah, a welcoming place to know and experience God's love. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because I think as human beings, we're created to, in order for us to be vulnerable and to learn and to experience, we need to feel safe. That's just who we are. And I think, unfortunately, in the church, there has been kind of this narrative over the years that safety is bad in some ways. Like, if you're feeling comfortable and safe and secure, then you're not risking it for God, or you're not like following God's call. Like, there's always been this kind of message that Christians, you know, need to be stepping out and doing things that make them feel uncomfortable and all that kind of stuff. But as human beings with something as vulnerable as our faith, and you know, our faith is our lives and it's our future and it's our family and friends' future and all of that kind of stuff. We need to have a sense of feeling safe so that we can explore, so that we can step out and take risks. We can't do those things without feeling safe. And I think one of the primary roles of the church when it comes to discipling, when it comes to building community, when it comes to sharing the gospel, is to create spaces that are safe, not so that people stay where they are. It's so that people can explore and be transformed and change. And the church needs to essentially provide that anchor point for people to facilitate a space where people can ask questions, people can be themselves, people can explore and change without fear of being rejected or being judged. And that is such a core aspect of why the church exists. And I think in 2020 and beyond, we are living in an age where the world is feeling more and more unstable and more unsafe in a lot of ways. We think about COVID and what that has produced for our own like mental health. You know, a lot of us are feeling anxious and worried about the future and unstable. And I think that's just going to keep increasing that feeling of external unsafety. And so the church now needs to more than ever provide spaces where people feel safe to be themselves, to explore and to ask questions without fear of being rejected. And I think the minute the church loses that part of themselves, there's a really, really big problem. And the church needs to completely shift and change and reconsider why they exist. Because if the church is not a space that is safe, the church is not doing what the church should be doing. And so while, yes, there is other parts of the church's purpose that includes pushing people and challenging people and all of that kind of stuff, I think primarily the church needs to be a safe space for people. So in order for us to know and experience God's love, we need to have a space where we are safe to be open to that. And as Christians, as people who are a part of the church, that is our primary responsibility, is to ensure that we are creating a space where people can feel safe to know and experience God's love. So I would say that, first of all, is it's such an important value, right? One of the most important values, I think, of the church. The second thing I would say is, as far as advice for the church, how do we do this? I think that there's so many ways that we can do this. But I would say, first of all, is look at who's in your congregation. Look at who's in your community. Do you have a diverse group of people from diverse backgrounds who have diverse faith experiences? Do you have people who are asking questions? Do you have people who aren't sure about things? Do you have people who have been rejected from other communities? Because if you have all of those things, then you're probably already creating a safe space for people. If you have a bunch of people in your community that all think the same, that all come from the same background, that have zero questions, who have never been rejected from communities, I'm not saying you're not creating a safe space. You're creating a safe space for a certain group of people, but not for everyone. And so that's how we can measure whether we're doing this or not. Have a look in your community. And if you don't see people that are different from you, that have different experiences from you, then maybe you need to consider like what that means for you and for your own faith and your own ministry. How do we do it then as a church? I think it takes a whole lot of humility. It takes being in tune with God's Spirit. God, I believe, is constantly pursuing the church to be better, to change, to transform. And quite often the church isn't listening to that because they're so busy doing everything. But I think being in tune with God's Spirit and what God's Spirit is telling the church is so important. And then a part of that is then how do we, and we were just talking about this earlier, Matt, was how do we as Christians and how do we as communities literally have open hands rather than clenched fists? When we're trying to hold on to doctrines that have been taught to us for so long, or particular kinds of theology, or even just our own ethics and values that we've been taught that doesn't necessarily have any biblical foundation, when we're trying to hold on to it, all that does is like squishes us. And when we can start to like slowly open our hands and give God the space to speak into our theology and speak into our doctrines and speak into our values and ethics, when we can open our hands, we're actually giving God the space to do that. When we have our fists clenched, there's no space for God to work. God is always going to work. God is always at work. We don't do the work, God does the work. But when we are constantly like, I need to hold on to this because I'm insecure and I'm scared of what will happen if I open my hands, we're not allowing God to do what God does. And that's a shame for us. God will always be at work. Like that will never change. But it's a shame for us if we don't get to be involved in the dynamic like work and inclusion and love and grace of God. So I think I would say that. How do we learn to, as Christians and in communities, how do we encourage one another to unclench our fists, to unclench our hands, to learn to be open to God's Spirit, to be open to different possibilities? And yes, that's a little scary. And yes, that feels like in some ways a little bit unsafe, but it's also like, I think one of the best things that we can do for our churches and for our own faith. And it's an exciting thing. It's not something that we need to be scared of. So, man, I love having these conversations. I got fired up.
No, that was good. I think it was awesome, and I think I'd love for if you're COVID clear and stuff. I'm disappointed I didn't get to see him do the test, but if you're COVID clear and you're in Toowoomba before I know you're moving up to the coast before then, I'd love to have you come preach at our church and share, since our church has gotten to know you through this. And yeah, I think, who knows, maybe next week we can do a round 2 of a quarantine interview and see how you're going. We can see what we're day 4, so that'll be day 9. No, God, my math is awful.
4 + 7, Matt.
I know that's not 9.
Day 11.
11. I was gonna do it.
I'll be like going crazy by that point. Who knows what I'll look like by day 11, but I'm happy to do that.
No, we'll do that. I'll look forward to that.
All right, sounds good.
No worries. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Bye.
Bye.